So we're going to be starting with Act 1, Scene 4, because we read through Scene 3 in class with me giving you notes about it, but I haven't given you notes about Scenes 4, 5, 6 in Act 1. And so it's really important that you get these notes, but I don't want to take class time to do that. So if you don't have your book, you need to go get it, because I'm going to be asking you to mark lines, note passages, and think about certain things that you'll then be asked to discuss later on. So where we left off in class in our discussion was at the end of Scene 3. We just read straight through the rest of it. So hopefully you understand what's going on and you've read it in your groups as well. So Scene 4 takes place in Forest, and this is the palace. This is where the king lives. So we shift from place to place, and now we're in Duncan's home. And Duncan is asking for an update, of course, about whether that execution on the Thane of Cawdor has been accomplished. Malcolm says, no, well, I don't know. Not yet. I haven't. I did speak with somebody who did see him die, but I can't say it from first-hand knowledge. He says that he confessed his treasons at the end and that he died a becoming death. I want you to mark that line because that's very important when you look at somebody who died, how they died, and did they die a becoming death, an honorable death. This Thane of Cawdor, who has betrayed the king, who has done everything that he had sworn not to do, has at his end confessed and died honorably. And is that honorable death that would then qualify him for eternal life. And this is a big deal to Macbeth later on. Now, what Duncan says on page 9 in this book, if that's the one that you have in Scene 4, is very, very important. Those are lines that will probably come back up on a test, and you need to mark them. There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. So what I want you to write down, we've already got that fair is foul theme. I want you to write down this false face theme. We're going to see that come back up over and over again. The false face theme. He was, in other words, somebody, when I looked at his face, it was honorable. He never showed me by looking at him that I couldn't trust him. And then Macbeth comes in. And I want you to notice when Macbeth enters. Every time Macbeth enters the play, go back to Scene 1 and notice that when Macbeth enters, something has just been said or done, but more frequently said, that sets Macbeth up, something Shakespeare wants us to know about Macbeth. And so go back and notice what the witches said before he came in. At this point, we've just heard Duncan say there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. An absolute trust, of course, means I would trust my life with him, on him. And then here comes Macbeth. And Banquo, Ross, and Angus, they have just come in. The time is immediate. You know, we just saw them. You have to assume all of this happens in a short amount of time. And now they're going to heap praise on Macbeth. This is where Duncan is going to thank him officially and thank Banquo as well. Both Macbeth and Banquo return that gratitude and say to Duncan, you are worthy of that kind of work. Macbeth says the service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Your Highness's part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to your throne and state children and servants, which do but what they should, by doing everything safe toward your love and honor. He is giving full lip service to his honorable intentions and his duty towards the king. Duncan makes a key statement here. Note these lines. He says, there I have begun to plant thee. In other words, he says, Macbeth, you are in my heart and in my mind, and will labor to make thee full of growing. So this allusion to growth. This, I've planted you like a seed, I'm going to grow you. Very similar to what somebody in a business world might say to an employee. I've got plans for you. I can see that you have something special, and I've got plans for you, that you're going to do big things in this company. This is what Duncan has said to Macbeth. I've got plans for you. I see the seed planted, and I'm going to see that it grows. And then he turns his attention to Banquo and says, Banquo, no less to you. I owe you a debt of gratitude as well. You are also in my heart. And Banquo continues that same metaphor there. If it grows, the harvest is your own. So they're talking metaphorically about this growth, but they're really talking about the relationship and the plans and that kind of stuff. Now, Duncan drops a bomb in this next speech. Nobody has expected anything that Duncan would make a big announcement. If anything, Macbeth would be expecting a big announcement, because he's had these witches interfere in his understanding and his plans. And so when Duncan says, I'm going to take this opportunity and name my son Malcolm as the heir to the throne. Well, remember, at this point, the system of primogeniture had not been put in place. Primogeniture is, of course, the eldest son is in line to the throne. And so that system was not in place. The way you became a king was that you killed the king before you. So for Duncan to name an heir when he's not really close to death is an unusual thing. He begins that sentence when he says, we will establish our estate, meaning I'm going to name the heir, upon. Now I want you to think about what is in Macbeth's mind at this point. Because Macbeth is probably out there going, oh my gosh, this is happening so fast. Those witches told me I was going to be Thane of Cawdor, and boom, I was Thane of Cawdor. And I mean, it wasn't a few hours before now, I'm going to be named the king, the heir to the throne. This is all happening so fast. And probably you have been in a situation at some point where you were waiting on an announcement to be made, and you were in the running for something. And you're sitting there waiting for that announcement. And in your mind, you're going, I know I got it. I know I got it. It's me. It's me. It's me. And the announcement is made, and it's not you. How do you feel? There's the face that you have to keep for everybody else who's looking. And then there's the gut feeling that you have inside of disappointment that you can't show at that point. This is exactly what Macbeth experienced, because he fully expected at that moment to be named the heir to the throne, and he wasn't. The name Prince of Cumberland would be the title of the heir apparent. So what we're going to put is the Prince of Cumberland. You know, I like to abbreviate, so we're just going to call him the P of C. The Prince of Cumberland is the title of the heir to the throne. Now, in England, that title is Prince Charles has the title. Oh my goodness, now that I'm sitting here on video, I can't remember it. He's the prince. Oh, it'll come back to me. But anyway, there is the title that means you're next in line. At that moment, I mean, it was very fast. Duncan says, I'm going to name Malcolm as king and bind him further to our hearts. It's going to be a great lineage. And then he says immediately, and now we're going to go and spend the night at Inverness with Macbeth. Now, for the king and his entourage to go and spend the night in the home of one of his thanes would show an inordinate amount of trust. And it would sort of reinforce what he had just said to Macbeth. I've got big plans for you, Macbeth. Macbeth should be incredibly honored by this, that the king would come and spend the night at his home. That's not exactly what happens. Macbeth's lip service, Macbeth says, great, yeah, okay, great, thanks, happy about that. I think what I'll do, King, is I'm going to head out first. I got to let the wife know, and so I'll just meet you there, and I'll be on my way. And humbly take my leave, King. And so Duncan leaves him with my worthy Cawdor. Notice that he has bumped up from Glamis to Cawdor. Cawdor is a larger territory, would have more power. And so that one's going to sort of trump Glamis. He doesn't give that up, however. Now then Macbeth says, all by himself, mark these lines, the Prince of Cumberland. That is a step on which I must fall down, or else, or leap. For in my way it lies. I've got a choice, he says. I either accept that Malcolm is the Prince of Cumberland, or I'm going to have to do something about it. Now, this is the second time we've seen Macbeth in this equivocation kind of mode. And to equivocate means to go back and forth. So we saw him earlier when he said, if it's good, then it should have started with the truth. It can't be good, it can't be ill, after when he was the encounter with the witches. He continues this little passage, this aside, and you should always look in an aside or a soliloquy when you want a character analysis. That's where you see the true person. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. Now, what do you think that means? What is Macbeth equivocating about? What is he thinking about here? I'm going to let you think for just a minute. Did you say that Macbeth is thinking whether or not he's going to have to kill Duncan or accept it? Because if that's what you thought, you're right. So good for you. Duncan says, it's time to go. Worthy Banquo, he is full so valiant. We're going to be fed there. I'm sure it's going to be great. And we'll see you there. He says about Macbeth to everyone who's left, let's after him, let's go. Remember, Shakespeare sort of leaves out some words every now and then. Let's go after him, whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. He thinks that Macbeth is left early so that he can get everything in order and make things just perfect for Duncan's visit. And then he says, it is a peerless kinsman. You know what that would mean? Peerless kinsman. Well, peerless, of course, you know what a peer is. And so your peer would be your equal. Remember when I drew king and the thanes over here, these equal things? So he would be a peer to the other thanes. If he is a peerless kinsman, that means that he's above all the rest of them. He has no equals. He is above them. Now he says that after Macbeth is gone. But we know how Duncan feels, and we know that Duncan has really a strong inclination or affinity. There's your vocab word. He has a strong affinity for Macbeth. Macbeth has taken off, though, and gone to Inverness. And that is the end of Scene